Can't wait to get home. Nah, girl, I got something else to do. Damn, Jill, don't be fronting on your girls, for real. Go ahead, really, get your groove on. 'Cause tonight my man's coming through. Yeah, we gon' have to connect some other time. As much as I like to shake my thing on the dance floor, I got another nasty freaky just right where you're not. Tonight I'm gonna beat the high score. Is it the way you love me, baby? Yeah. Is it the way you love me,
Is it the way? Jill Scott to get us started on Tonight on Word. Good evening. I am your special guest host, Tiffany Bacon. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, and streaming live on WURDradio.com. Come on in the room. Great conversation I have planned for you tonight. I'd love to hear from you. 215-634-8065. I'd like to welcome my very special guest. You are no stranger to the sister. She is what I call a political and news expert, and we go back like Cracker Jack in a big box. Miss Denise Clay. Hey, Denise, good evening.
Hey, Tiffany, how are you?
I'm breathing on schedule. How you doing?
Well, I'm pretty much doing the same because it's 2020, and since it's 2020, you have no idea what's coming up next, what form it's going to take.
That's true.
And what kind of zaniness awaits you. I mean, I just saw that they're about to do an animated version of Good Time.
I saw that on Facebook.
Who asked for that?
Nobody.
Really?
Nobody.
Nobody asked for that. That's unnecessary. That don't need to happen.
Exactly. So, you know, there's so much that goes on that's like, why are we doing that? Why are we even here? Why are we doing this? One of those things is each night, if you stay on top of politics, which I know you do and a lot of our listeners do, there just comes a point where you are no longer surprised at what you hear, but you just ask yourself, how deep down the rabbit hole is this going to go? Not only how deep down the rabbit hole is this going to go, ultimately, what are the effects going to be on our lives? Are we headed into irreversible actions? Our life has already changed because of COVID, but what other changes should we try to expect in the event that 45 is elected for a second term? So we're going to talk about that this evening. We're going to talk about if you are at all surprised or how you respond to the new information you get every day. Do you have concerns about where is this going? Are we heading down a path that we have not experienced in the United States yet? And what does that mean for me and my family? Do I need to figure out how to get a passport and get up out of here? Or is it just another one of those things you just, yeah, that's just what it is. We're going to work through it either way. Thoughts, share them. 215-634-8065. Miss Denise, I know you have many, many thoughts. And there's many places we can start on this journey to the where do we go from here? I guess I'll call that, give it a title tonight. Where do we go from here tonight on Word?
Well, let's talk about what's happening locally. Let's just kind of start with that.
Please.
Because right now, tomorrow, actually this entire week is going to be Philadelphia is going to take center stage in the presidential race.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, Donald Trump is coming to collect his endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police. Now, he got the endorsement from the national FOP, but the way that this works for organizations like the FOP, once the national chapter decides to do something, all of the locals just fall in line. And that's kind of what happened here. Now, what makes this interesting in terms of Philadelphia is that Philadelphia has a group called the Guardian Civic League. And those of you in the audience who are longtime WURD listeners have probably heard Sheriff Rochelle Bilal on the station a time or two. She used to be the president of the Guardian Civic League. And the Guardian Civic League is an organization of African-American officers here in Philadelphia. They're still members of the FOP because every police officer is a member of the FOP. But they're an organization that, you know, kind of, I guess, advocates for black police officers. And they have decided to endorse the Biden-Harris ticket, the ticket of former Vice President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And the reason why they decided to do this was because they believe that Biden and Harris have a track record of helping the community and represent an opportunity to do better as a country than under the current organization. And the president of the Guardian Civic League, Crystal Williams Coleman, said that her organization strongly condemns the actions of the FOP because the union is disregarding our concerns and our position on this candidate selection. And as dues-paying members, they feel that the Trump administration, which touts itself as a law and order, administration, has instead created a hostile work environment for law enforcement officers by how it conducts itself. And there's an argument for that because when you're basically encouraging some of the baser actions of police, you automatically make the people that they are supposed to be protecting and serving instead afraid of them. And I don't know about you, but if I'm afraid of you and you just walk up on me, there are two options I can take. I can fight or I can flee. And if you flee from a police officer, chances are you're going to get shot. But if you fight a police officer, chances are you're going to get shot. So it's created this working environment where the very people who are supposed to protect us, especially in places like Philadelphia where gun violence has become such a big problem here, not necessarily become, but is at the current moment, it makes it hard for the organization that's supposed to keep us safe and the people to be able to work together.
So there's a lot. Yeah. There's a whole lot. There's a whole lot that's going on right now. We're sharing thoughts about this tonight, and Denise, you have a whole lot of great information. Thank you for sharing that. But anything that you, the listening audience, feeling about what's happening right now, does it provide any anxiety? Are you just angry and out there ready to act and do something? How are you feeling about what's going on? Give us a call, 215-634-8065. So, Denise, I'm going to guess you're going to be out there covering all of this.
Well, here's the thing. I'm trying to get, and this is another thing that's been really weird about both of these campaigns, especially when you look at it from the point of view of no one is actually out on the road campaigning with any kind of steadiness. what's been weird about both of those campaigns is that getting information, particularly for the black press, on how to cover these events has become unnecessarily hard. I mean, usually folks send me a press release. I RSVP to, get on the press list. And a lot of this stuff is virtual. So I end up, sitting in a lot of Zoom meetings where, you're talking to candidates or candidate surrogates or whatever.
Right.
But as you know, with the Trump people, they don't believe in all that.
Right.
They believe in getting as many people as you can into a small space as possible and, having it be mask optional because contrary to rumor, in Trump world, we don't have a global pandemic we're battling. And, and they get together and they do that. Now, the last time that someone from the Trump administration was in town, Mike Pence was at the FOP building in Northeast Philadelphia. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it is so far in Northeast Philadelphia. If you go up 5 blocks, you're in Bucks County. But
wow.
That's neither here nor there.
That's up there,
And there were, it was like a full house. The city says you can only have 25 people in an indoor gathering. The FOP easily had 150.
Mm-hmm.
The city says you have to wear masks, not in that room. And it was just, I get the feeling that tomorrow, with Trump himself coming, it's going to be one great big rally with people not taking social distancing precautions, not wearing masks, and saying stuff that, and I'm just going to be honest with your audience, sometimes covering stuff like that makes me have flashbacks to when I was covering white supremacist groups in Reading. And that doesn't necessarily make me feel the most comfortable in the world, but it's the job.
Right. And I can totally understand that. And as we talk about all the different effects of what's going on right now, you just mentioned one of the big ones. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and there's a lot of people that are not taking the wearing of a mask, social distancing seriously. Even now, we're 7-8 months into this whole thing. And there's still a lot of people that don't think, oh, this isn't necessary. It's not important. This is a hoax. It's not that deep. It's like the flu. There are all these other little comments that people are making. And it's going to extend what is happening right now. It's just going to make it worse. Before you finish your comment, I want to go back to the phones. Let's go to line 1 and speak with Hemby calling in West Virginia. Hey, good evening. You're live on the air.
Thank you. Love and honor to you, my dear sister, and good day to you. Good evening to you guests.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. What are your thoughts? What are your comments?
I think in terms of the presidential candidate, we're going to get a clearer picture once we get to the debate. I think things will really start to get clearer, and I think Trump is going to do very badly during the debate. My question to you guys, and in regarding to the mask, the reason why there's a lot of we need a uniform message when it comes to masks. You know, when you have in Florida where they don't mandate masks, and New York is mandate. So I think once we get a uniform from like the government, like mandatory, like in France, for example, to wear a mask, a lot of people will just start taking it seriously. But right now, the reason why people are not taking it seriously because there's different messages. You go to one zip code, you can wear a mask. You go to another zip code, it's not mandatory. So it's very confusing. Yeah. But what I wanted to ask your guest is that, does she feel like on the Democratic side, does she feel the establishment and the grass movement are divided? Because I'm still very concerned about how the establishment kind of expunged the progressive from 2020. And I'm just kind of concerned that we might have a repeat of 2016, but it's a different time. But I just want to get her perspective on that, and I'll listen off the phone. Thank you so much.
All right, Hemby. Thank you so much for your phone call.
Wow, West Virginia. Go to.
Yes. What are your thoughts, Denise?
Well, here's the thing. first of all, this whole mask thing is about to get much harder because the federal judge just ruled in favor of 3 counties in Pennsylvania, saying that the whole, mask mandate and everything that, Tom Wolf had put into being in Pennsylvania to try to keep Pennsylvanians from, dying of the coronavirus is unconstitutional. Now, the Wolf administration has said they're going to appeal it, and what it might, and this kind of like goes back to the other question your caller had.
Yeah.
The judge that decided that this was unconstitutional was a Trump-appointed judge.
Of course.
So that kind of goes back to what the gentleman was saying about the grassroots versus the establishment. First of all, the only place where the grassroots and the establishment are having any kind of fight, or in terms of the Democratic Party, at least from what I can see, is on Twitter and in the mind of Bernie Sanders. Just about everybody else I've talked to who calls themselves a progressive is like, look, I may not like everything that this ticket espouses, but I also have figured out something from 2016, which is if you can't make things change if you can't even get in the room to have the conversation. And plus, one thing that people of color need to kind of understand about progressivism as it's currently being practiced, or at least how it's being practiced by the folks on the national level that you hear about it most from, it doesn't always want to talk about what's important to us. There's a lot of a focus on class in terms of that form of progressivism. There's a lot that focuses on class and not so much on the part that racism plays in class, or how that affects. It doesn't. I mean, these are not necessarily people who want to have the reparations discussion. So while there might be some of that back and forth on social media and other places when it comes to the grassroots versus the establishment, which most of the time when people ask me that question, I'm like, if you don't vote, who are you, who is the problem? If you wanted your person to win, you should have voted for your person. And but blaming other people for voting for their person, that's not cool. And it also doesn't take into consideration the fact that, and I'm just going to be brutally honest here, all of the folks who decided that Hillary Clinton was entirely too establishment to be president created this moment we're at now, where you can have 17 really good people, including people of color, including people with progressive ideas or more progressive ideas. You had 17 people on the Democratic side that you had to choose from, the most diverse grouping of candidates in history. And in the end, it ended up being 2 white dudes from each party battling for the right to be president. And part of that is because all the people who would have possibly given any of those other 17, any of those candidates among that 17 that were younger, that were people of color, that were more progressive, anyone who would have given them a chance has been so scared off by 4 years of Donald Trump that they said, I can't afford to do that. I have to be practical. And that is definitely the case when it comes to black voters.
All right, so I'm going to need to put a pin in that for a second. I have to take a break. Maurice from Southwest Philly, I see you're on the phone. I'm going to take your call. We're going to continue our conversation. We're focused on politics tonight. Where do we go from here? Are we on a path to no return? How does it make you feel? Give us a call, 215-634-8065. We'll be right back with more conversation after this.
weather, and traffic to keep you informed for your morning commute on Wake Up with Word. Weekdays 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. hosted by Solomon Jones. Right here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Justice, equality, accountability. These are the values we need in our leaders to bring us together and be the America we know we can be. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are those leaders. Joe Biden has the experience to fix our broken economy. He's done it before and he'll do it again. And our own Kamala Harris is ready to lead. As senator, she championed education, health care, and criminal justice reform. And with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in charge, we know the White House will be accountable to our community. For 4 years, our country has been run by inexperience and corruption, but we have the chance to turn it around with values rooted in our common goals and the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Unite the Country. www.blackpac.com and www.unitethecountry.com, which are responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, Independent Black Media.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at philadelphiastreets.com.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. Word TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Dog Child, Maze Kid, all I'm on the rise. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I went from Helly Hansons to mini mansions. The girls in the Aruba doing belly dancing. Spent half of my advancing, jaws from Branson to make it through my circumstances. But you know I'm wiser now, move like Kaiser now. Got a butter soft leather just to hide my pound. Got a house in the valley, come and find me now. Got enough dough to buy the town, so I might give a 6 to my chick, Benz to my mom's. Crib so big it look like the Synagogue. Give her a couch just to spill Henny on. And been a dawn since Lotto's and Benetton. Come on.
Some people say that I'm not the same girl. They say I think that I'm in my own world. What makes them think that I have changed? Yeah. A little talk and now they raise my problems. Be like you, I have to try and solve them. Yes, everything is quite the same. Whoa, I'm just trying to be me. Do what I got, do what I gotta do. You won't think that I'm just sitting on top of the world, sitting on top of the world.
We may not be sitting on top of the world, but we're sitting somewhere up here in the Philadelphia area, and wherever you are checking us out tonight on Word. I'm sitting on top of the world, so yeah. Tonight on Word, I'm your guest host, Tiffany Bacon. Thank you for joining me. Joining me on the phone, Miss Denise Clay. She's my special guest. Tonight, we are focusing on politics. Your thoughts about where we go from here, everything that's happening. Is it giving you anxiety? Is it making you feel like, oh, my God, what is next? What are we doing? Give us a call, 215-634-8065. Denise, before I let you chime back in, I want to get right to the phones. We have some folks who've been waiting for a few minutes. I don't want them to wait too long. Let's go to Maurice calling in on line 1 from Southwest Philly. Maurice, good evening. You're live on air.
Miss Bacon from J Street, and also my hero, Miss Clay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you?
I miss Miss Clay in the morning. I used to love when she used to be on in the morning.
Oh, yeah. She's great.
I want to put it to you like this. I usually preach homicidal politics, but today I'm preaching political homicide. And the reason I'm preaching political homicide is I don't see the race the way it should be, with all this nonsense from the president and his people, and Mitch McConnell. Don't forget Mr. McConnell got to go too. Is that I don't see the urgency, and that scares me. Because during the Obama's time, we were at every supermarket. I couldn't walk down the street without somebody asking me, was I registered? I said, I just asked you last week. What are you asking me for? But I don't see that. And the biggest division is with black men and young people. They don't seem to be too interested in understanding what we're getting ready to run into if this man gets 4 more years. We haven't seen nothing yet if he gets another 4. And then if he gets another 4, believe me, he's crazy enough to try to change the laws and go for another 4. So I'm trying to tell people they better pay attention. They keep bringing up 94, and I don't have to go into details about 94 and this and that, and she did this when she was a prosecutor. She did this in California. Do you understand? We're actually going against good and evil. My mother used to tell me when I did something wrong, you want the hammer or you want the gun? Now, I knew with the hammer I might have get a little beaten there. I know if it was the gun, I was going to get hurt. So I'm trying to tell people, listen, this is no joke. The man has killed 200,000 people and doesn't even think about it. And these people are willing to follow him into flame for this man just to stay white, to keep the country white. Well, at least what they think the country is going to stay white. They're willing to sacrifice their lives for this man. So we better stop waking up and stop always trying to find division inside the black race about, thinking we're going to get things instantly. It didn't get this way overnight, and we ain't going to change it overnight. So they better get their head together, because I see people asking me dumb stuff like, why isn't Obama running? Or what you voting for? I'm like, I don't know whether to run or explode. I don't know what to do. But I'm just saying, if possible, your next couple of shows, and I want this to go to Ms. Clay, can we please get the young Thundercats on 21 to 30 and ask them what do they want? Because we can win this race if we can get the young involved in this race. If we can bring them aboard, we can win this race strong. But we don't, because I don't see any major rappers or anything like that could say one word and they could get 100, 200,000 people to vote just because they say vote for this person. And I don't see not one of them speaking up. Now, what do you think about that, Ms. Clay?
Oh, wait, before Ms. Clay responds, I do want to say, in terms of the young, what you call Thundercats, the young Thundercats and the young rappers, Cardi B has been pretty vocal about voting, and very vocal about voting the Democratic ticket, as a matter of fact. So
what
just
about black males, though? Black males.
Well, okay, now you're moving it along. You said young rappers, so I gave you one. So she is pretty vocal about that. But I want to let Denise chime in. Hey, Denise, are you there? Oh, I hope I didn't lose you, Denise. Let's make sure you're on the line. So we're going to bring you back into the conversation. But yeah, so that's we're going to have her come back. So I guess we lost Denise, but there's Maurice, if you're still there. So, there's a lot to be said about a lot that's going on right now. I know different people have spoken out. Puffy is often.
Can I say one thing?
Hold on one second. I know Puffy is often spoken out. I don't have a tally in my head, and I will research this in a few moments. Who has been speaking out and who hasn't. But we also have to take into account what COVID has done for a lot. Like, Denise was talking about just the level of difficulty to get things done. Part of it is COVID and part of it is the administration. But if you're talking about people standing on corners and handing out stuff, most people are not standing on corners right now handing out nothing because of COVID. So we also have to take into account what effect that is having on some of this. Doesn't mean that that's an excuse to not have the fire that we need to get this situation corrected. But we have to also take into account, is that one of the reasons why you're not seeing the level of activity that you're used to seeing? I think we have Denise back on the line. Denise, hey.
I'm still trying to figure out how I did that.
I don't know. It's okay, but you're here. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to Maurice because he did ask you a direct question.
And actually, two of the more controversial figures that in this whole race have been black male rappers, namely Ice Cube and Diddy, who have basically been saying, well, if you want our vote, they've kind of fashioned themselves as spokesmen for the black community, saying that, here's a list of demands, and if we don't get these demands or we don't get these promises from you, and this is aimed mostly at former Vice President Biden and Senator Harris, we're not going to vote. And the thing is, sure, part of the problem that, we had when President Obama was president is everybody complained about what the black community didn't get, but there weren't a whole lot of specific demands made. So, it's a good thing that folks are asking for a demand, but the thing is, this is, as Maurice, put it, this is seen by many as too crazy, for want of a better way to put it, of a situation for you to decide you're either not going to vote or you're going to vote third party or you're going to do something that basically says, I don't want to have my say. Now, I was just on a call today with the Biden for President people because, and if you've been listening to ads on WURD, they've discovered, advertising with the black press. It only took you, 8 years. So we appreciate it. But that, the two sections of people that seem to be the ones that folks are trying to figure out who to talk to are black and Latino men. And the reasons for this vary. When it came to Hillary Clinton in 2016, and no one wants to talk about this, so I guess that once I say it, we'll probably get a lot of calls, people telling me that, I don't know what I'm talking about. There is a lot of sexism that we need to deal with. And we're going to see it again on some level when it comes to Kamala Harris being VP. You still have groups of men who believe that a woman's place is not running things. And no more was that more obvious than 4 years ago when Hillary Clinton ran for president, because most of the people who you would think that white women would have run to her, but because their husbands said don't vote for her, 53% of them didn't.
Yeah, I think that's an hours-long conversation by itself. I want to say thank you to Maurice. Thank you for your comment, for your question, and definitely for checking in. I want to go to line 2 and speak with Jacob, who's calling in from Alney. Jacob, thank you for your patience. You're live on air.
Hey, peace be unto you, Sister Bacon, and to Sister Clay.
Yes, thank you, and to you.
Good conversation. Look, first of all, we as black people in this country, we got to have a plan A and a plan B. Right? I mean, looking at the rally last night that the president had, these got to be some of the dumbest people in the country that know that COVID-19 is real. They heard him, say that it was real, but he was playing it down. Knowing that, they still was on the inside venue, no mask out there. In back of him, he had, that shows you how phony they are. The people, so that the cameras could pick up some masks, but the majority of the people in the audience, they didn't have masks. I guess Trump is so scared of catching it, he probably made them wear it anyway, because, he's real cowardice, and I'm not going to hope no bad on nobody, but here's the deal. We got to have that plan A and plan B. It's really hard for me to even imagine 4 more years of 45. But as black people, we still got to struggle to get our piece of this American pie. We ain't going to stop doing that. And look, it might be better, because if he get 4 more years, we can just go to Russia and talk to Putin and tell him what we want here, and he'll tell 45 what to do. And I think we'll do better negotiating with a Putin, because at least he got common good sense, and he know that he don't want no work from us. So maybe we'll get our portion of the pie. But we got to have that plan A, plan B, and we ain't going to lose. I don't care what happened, but I just can't imagine, again, this guy getting 4 more years. That perfect storm that happened last in 16, where you had all the white folks. I didn't vote. Then the next day, out in the streets by the thousands, he's not my president. Well, you didn't vote. You had to burn, so you didn't. That's how the guy got in there. But I'm telling you, I don't believe, and can y'all help me, do y'all really think that the majority of American flag-loving, apple pie, freedom, democracy-loving people is going to let this happen again? Can y'all tell me if you think that's going to happen?
All right, Jacob, I need the commercial break to happen, and then we're going to come back and see what we can say about that. I'm going to definitely let Denise speak her piece. I'll speak my piece. I know Cliff is calling in from Connecticut. Cliff, I have not forgotten about you. Hold on for a few more minutes, and we will get your comment and your question if you have either or both. Also, if you're looking to have a conversation with us, you can reach us on the phone, 215-634-8065. We'll be right back with more conversation after this.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
We have to let people know we're listening, that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
But they're not getting a chance now.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a real plan for police reform.
It means creating a national standard on use of force and conditioning federal funds for police departments on adoption of that standard. It's about giving the United States Department of Justice the subpoena power to investigate systemic police misconduct.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that. I really mean it. I believe with every fiber in my being, we have such an opportunity now to change people's lives for the better. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Support independent black media and join the onWURD movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
Hey, Word family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. Under my plan, 50% of emergency small business relief would be reserved for the smallest businesses to recover from the economic mess we're in and to rebuild the economic future our country deserves. We can't just build back to what it was before. We have to build back better. If we truly want to reward the work in this country, we have to ease the financial burdens of care that families are carrying. To start, every 3- and 4-year-old child gets access to free high-quality preschool, and low- and middle-income families won't spend more than 7% of their income on child care for children under the age of 5. Advancing racial equity across the American economy. Building wealth for families of color. Building a future worthy of their courage and their ambition. Just imagine if we could truly unleash their full potential. I'm confident we can do this. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. WURD TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Yeah, Ibadu, you're going to miss your bus because you got too much stuff. Welcome to Tonight on WURD. I am your guest host, Tiffany Bacon. Thank you so much for joining me. We are also streaming live on our Facebook page. You can post your comments there. I'll do my best to read them and have the questions or comments addressed. Thank you again. Feel free to call us, 215-634-8065. We were speaking with, I think it was Jacob in Alney, asked the question, do you really think Trump can get reelected? Denise, I'm going to let you take this one.
Well, a lot of folks who make a lot more money than me pontificating about politics thought that there was no way that Donald Trump could get a first term. But what I've learned over my years of covering politics is that the one bet you should never make with me is I bet the American people are going to go into a voting booth and do something you totally didn't expect. I mean, they weren't necessarily voting for Donald Trump as much as they were voting for the head of Trump Inc. on Celebrity Apprentice. And they saw him as this competent leader who spoke to them and spoke in their language and spoke to their issues. And that's what they were voting for. This time, they're being asked to vote for Donald Trump, who is basically only one of the few people I know of that has managed to go bankrupt doing, on a casino, which is a business that, by its nature, the House always wins. So, you have two different people that folks are being asked to vote for. But that said, I don't count him out. And I don't count him out because his supporters are still very much down with him. The people that crowded into that building last night in suburban Las Vegas with no masks on, there listen to him talk about putting Barack Obama in jail, those people will follow him to the ends of the earth, and they are everywhere. And as with every election, it depends on who gets their supporters out. If the people who will follow Donald Trump to the ends of the earth, they're going to come out and vote. What needs to happen if folks don't want those people to still be controlling the conversation at the end of this election is the people who wouldn't follow Donald Trump to the ends of the earth need to come out and vote.
Right. And that's the long and the short of it. Jacob, we got to let you go, but thank you for that. Hopefully Denise was able to answer your question sufficiently. Yes? All right. Thank you so much. Let's go to line 3 and speak with Cliff, who's calling in from Connecticut. Cliff, you're live on air. Thank you for your patience.
No, that's okay. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I have to put the focus, and I'm not a troll. I do intend to vote for the Harris-Biden ticket. I'm putting Harris first because she's the only reason why I'm going to vote for Biden. But such as in 2016, we just got to keep in mind that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 5,000, 50,000 votes? So she won the election. So we must keep in mind that it's the electorals, the representatives that are determined by the census. And let me also say this as a side note. Before I go further, would you say that we have more of a population now than in the year 2010 or less?
Yeah.
So the population, is it more or less as opposed to 2010?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the point I'm making is that if the electors are determined by the population, but we always maintain that number of 270 votes to win the Electoral College. So why is that? So that number still stays the same, no matter what the population is. So the point I'm making is that we as a people, when we go to the polls again, we're not going to actually directly vote for the presidency, but we're going to vote for the electorals to represent the electors, to represent our vote, and they are not obligated to vote in December for the masses of the people. So they determine who the president is. So this happened 4 times in American history. So you had twice in the 1800s, then you had with Al Gore, then you had with Hillary Clinton. Trump will be the 5th time, but the first time in history in which a president has won the presidency twice through the Electoral College and lose the popular vote. Watch what happens. They made this system for an intent. That's to jeopardize and undermine the popular vote process in which we all really don't have a right to vote. But we do, but it really doesn't count. Does that make a little bit of sense? Am I a little bit off with this, or does it make a little bit of sense?
You are clear.
And I'll you respond.
Yes, thank you so much. And I appreciate your patience, Cliff, because you have been waiting for a while. But I'm going to let Denise dig into that, because we do hear that a lot, that it doesn't actually matter. But what would happen if a whole bunch of people just didn't vote? Denise, what would happen?
Well, first of all, the 270 electors was determined as part of the Constitution for how the whole voting for president thing was set up. And we're talking a lot more now about getting rid of that system, because the reason why it was put in place in the first place was so that the people, the so-called unwashed masses, wouldn't be able to directly elect the president via the popular vote. The lauded gentry who founded this country wanted to remain in charge and determine who remained in charge, and that's why they set the Electoral College up. So you're right, Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote. In fact, the difference between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in terms of the popular vote and the electoral vote was so historic that, that's when people started thinking, oh, something's not quite right here. But, the Electoral College stays the way it is because that's what the Constitution says. Now, how each state, depending on what state you're talking about, you have some states that will allow rogue electors, which is that, when you vote in the primaries or you vote in the presidential election, your vote determines how many electors which each person gets. Like if the majority of the electors are for Donald Trump gets that majority. But if there were electors that voted for Hillary Clinton, those go to her. But you have some states that will allow electors to say, I'm not going to vote for who my state voted for. But there are very few states, and a lot of those states are starting to change the laws to where you can't do that. So I say all that to say, if you want the electors for your candidate to be the ones to go to the meeting of the Electoral College in December and put the final vote in for president, you have to go out and vote in November because that is when those electors are chosen.
So that's why it still makes a difference.
Yes.
That's why it still matters.
It still makes a difference because if the electors don't pick themselves, the candidates don't pick the electors, the people pick the electors.
Okay, I want to address a couple of things. We are running out of time in this segment, so what I want to do is just take a break. We're going to breathe. We're going to come back. I see that we have Maurice from North Philly and Mary from Mount Airy. Listen, y'all, I'm going to come back and take your comments and your questions. I just need you to hold on for me for a few minutes. Going to go to a commercial break, come right back with more conversation after this.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
We have to let people know we're listening, that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
But they're not getting a chance now.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a real plan for police reform.
It means creating a national standard on use of force and conditioning federal funds for police departments on adoption of that standard. It's about giving the United States Department of Justice the subpoena power to investigate systemic police misconduct.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that. I really mean it. I believe with every fiber in my being, we have such an opportunity now to change people's lives for the better. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at philadelphiastreets.com.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
Welcome to Tonight on Word. I am your guest host, Tiffany Bacon. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. We are WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, and streaming live on WURDradio.com. Tonight, we're talking politics. My special guest is Denise Clay, and there's a lot to say. So get on the line. Let's hear what you have to say. Comments, questions, welcomed. 215-634-8065. Maurice in North Philadelphia has been waiting for some time. Let's take your call on line 1. Good evening. You're live on air.
Hey, ladies. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. I want to make a couple points and ask a question.
Yes.
You brought up where we go from here.
Yes.
And what you narrated in this clip that you draw when you first opened up, something that Martin Luther King written about 1967. It's like a playbook he written, where do we go from here? And what you were describing is that in this playbook, the political climate and the climate is going on here was going on in 1967. And from that, from 1967 to now, we haven't closed the income racial wealth gap. And we vote in every year, but we get nothing in return. So we have no control of our equity because we don't control economics. We keep voting. And voting don't give you economics. Economics give you voting. So moving forward, we see Hillary Clinton. You tie Hillary and Biden and Kamala Harris together. Hillary didn't get to see for many reasons. But one segment of the population was upset with Hillary because Hillary didn't apologize what she did to black America. And this is the same step that Biden and Kamala Harris is doing. No one upset because Kamala Harris was a prosecutor. But they're upset because the Supreme Court and the federal court that she was using cruel and unusual punishment and prosecution misconduct towards black citizens. And at the same time, she let the other segment of the population walk that was doing crime. That's why they're upset.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have to stop you because you just gave out a whole bunch of misinformation.
I did? Well, let's talk
Yes,
what we
you did.
give information on. Let's go with it.
But let me help you out. One, Hillary Clinton did not pass or sign the crime bill of 1994. She was the first.
I never said.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Maurice, let her finish. Maurice, let her finish.
She was the first lady. And anyone you talk to from the 90s who was in the neighborhoods dealing with the crack epidemic, they would have called them super predators too. And we never do two things when we have this discussion of Hillary Clinton and the crime bill. We never talk about the fact that the Congressional Black Caucus went to the Clinton administration and asked for them to put something on the books that would tighten things up in terms of the crack war. Now, was that the wrong thing to do? Absolutely, because it ended up creating the prison industrial complex. But we never give that credit where credit is due. And we also never give the credit where credit is due. And I'm just going to come right out and say it because somebody needs to. Bernie Sanders, the person that everybody seems to want to bring up when we have this discussion as the savior of the prison of the person who was, he's not for this. Bernie not only voted for the 94 crime bill, he campaigned on it. Not once, but twice. So, let's just stop that right there. Because that's not 100% right. And I believe that if we're going to have the discussion about the criminal justice system and how it needs reforming, we got to put the right information out there, not just the stuff that you see on the internet, which may not be 100% right or may have a built-in bias to it. I mean, that may be where you want to start, but that's not the best place to start. And I'm a journalist, and because of that, I got to go with the facts.
So in this, and thank you, Denise, for the clarity on that, and I want to bring Maurice back in. Thank you for giving her just a few moments to just say her piece on that. I wanted you to finish what you were going to say, but I want to flesh it out just a little bit more because I know you were in the middle of a thought.
Right. That's what I want to say. I never allude to what she said I allude to. Hillary Clinton endorsed it. Let's back up with the crime bill.
How can she endorse it?
Can I finish?
All right, hold on, Denise. Hold on.
Can I finish?
Let him get the floor for a second.
Let's go back when the crime bill first really happened. It happened in 1984, 83. When it happened when Reagan and Bush put drugs in our community, and they used Freeway Ricky as part of the 84 Comprehensive Control Act. Let's go back where it started. It was Joe Biden and Strom Thurmond that helped put the bill together. That's when it really started. And used Freeway Ricky. They set up Freeway Ricky, who wasn't a drug dealer. They made him a drug dealer, and he only went to jail after Ronald Reagan and Iran-Contra put him in jail and put everything on him. When they was the ones swiping gasoline for guns. That's how the crime bill got started. Then in 1986, it was the Drug Abuse Act. When Len Bias OD'd at the University of Maryland, they came with that, and they was holding drug addicts for the same accountability if he was a drug dealer. Then in 1988, it came with the assault weapon and women being battered. In 1988, and in 1992-93, they attacked Suge Knight, Irv Gotti, and Jay Prince, and they tried to set them up because they were talking about becoming a record distribution, and they tried to hit them with the crime bill for crimes they didn't do. But because of Maxine Waters, she came to their aid, and she stopped the prosecution for Jay Prince. And Irv Gotti overturned it. I mean, he won his case, but Suge Knight went to jail for something else after the feds got caught trying to plant drugs in his house. So that's the crime bill. Hillary, I didn't say Hillary wrote. Hillary endorsed it. When everybody was coming forward and asking Hillary, are you going to apologize? That's what the community was saying. And Hillary stated, it's too late to apologize. Once we apologize, it's going to change this thing.
Okay. Denise, your response.
Apologize. The person who needs to apologize, and he eventually did it at NAACP convention when it came to Philadelphia, because I was there, was Bill Clinton, not Hillary Clinton. And that was another thing that kind of drove me crazy about 2016. The fact that you blamed someone who could not vote for that bill, who could not endorse that bill, who could do nothing with that bill for the bill itself. And it wasn't, I mean, the person y'all needed to come after was her husband, because he was the one that did it. Now, I understand everything else that you just said, because there were a couple of books I read, and I kind of, want to recommend one called, it was written by the late Gary Webb, that talked about the whole, drugs for weapons thing, that the whole Iran-Contra thing was that only, drug dealers got arrested instead of Oliver North, who should probably still be in jail now. But that you got to give the credit where the credit is due, and you can't necessarily blame the people who didn't do it. For Hillary Clinton to be expected to apologize for something her husband did is the ultimate in sexism, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. And unfortunately, Maurice, I'm going to have to let you go, just because I know we have a couple other people who have been waiting for a while to make a comment. But I am still on the where do we go from here? I understand what you're bringing up, but where do we go from here? You can give us a call, 215-634-8065. Sorry, Maurice, I'm just running out of time right now. Let's go to Mary on line 2, calling from Mount Airy. Mary, good evening. You're live on air.
Yes, good evening, ladies.
Yes, good
evening. Hi. What I'm hearing, even from politicians, that they do not know the laws that govern this country. And I remember when one of the speakers that was before the one that we have now, they said that they was going to go over the United States Constitution and make sure that no laws are implemented or dismantled and until they both approve, Senate and Democrats and Republicans. We allowed this man, a dictator, to dismantle our laws illegally, okay? And it's going to take Biden and Harris, I would say, 4 years to reinstate those laws. I mean, he dismantled the climate change laws that we voted on, Democrats and Republicans. No one man, this is why we have both Senate and Congress in place, to make sure no dictatorship is formed. This man was allowed to make all these changes without Nancy Pelosi and the speaker before her even challenging him, which was illegal. And we have to realize that until we lock him up, because what he did was a crime, we still don't know if he's working with Russia. And we have not only the FBI, we have the CIA, the intelligence community. They are aware, if he is working with Russia and any other country. And we need to stop this. This man is destroying this country here. And when we have politicians that get in place, like Bernie Sanders, talking about $15 for wages, when we made sure we placed the earned income tax credit for every citizen in this country that brings them above $15 an hour. So that tells me Bernie Sanders do not know the laws. And I'm tired of this, where we elect these people and they don't have a clue what the laws are about in this country. And I'm seeing that we give up right here, the city council in Philadelphia, we waste $100 million a year, we give it back because people are not filing their taxes. They below the poverty guidelines. So that's telling me that they don't know the laws. And so we start putting people in place that knows the laws that govern this country, we're going to be in a world of trouble, and Congress need to take back their powers. Because if this man takes us to war illegally, it's going to be on their heads because they should not relinquish any authority to this man who is committing crimes and made sure that he is prosecuted for what he did with this coronavirus. Thank you, and you have a good day.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate your patience, and thank you for listening to the show. Denise, want to give you a few moments to respond to the things that Mary said, because she said a lot of things.
Well, one of the things that she said that makes a whole lot of sense, and I'm glad that she brought this up. While the presidential election is what we call the quote-unquote sexy election, it's the one that everybody's paying attention to, we have a lot of down-ballot races that people need to pay attention to. Pennsylvania is going to be electing an auditor general. It's going to be electing members of the state legislature. It's going to be electing Congress people. And that's all over the country. And what we, if nothing else, Donald Trump being president has shown us the importance of a fully functioning government, because the way the government is set up, and anybody who is anybody who remembers Schoolhouse Rock, I'm just a little and everything.
Yes.
Will remember this, that you have three branches of government. You have the executive, you have the legislative, and you have the judicial. And right now, we're only hearing about the executive, and the executive can't do anything if there's a fully functioning Congress that makes sure that it protects the people, because that's the people that the people directly elect. They directly elect Congress. And we don't pay enough attention to Congress, to what goes on in Congress, to who's in Congress. And I'm hoping that based on the last 4 years where you basically had a Congress that let the president run amok and do things that, not even Nixon thought to do, maybe now we'll pay attention to just how important it is to have a functioning Congress.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah. I hope we have some time to try and unpack a little bit about what's at stake with this particular administration, different from the others, and what to do when people feel like, oh, it doesn't even matter whether I vote or not. We'll still get nothing. We have nothing. We'll get nothing. What's the counter conversation to that? But before we go there, I want to make sure we have our callers on the air and have them have a chance to be heard. Let's go to Khalil Ali in Southwest Philadelphia on line 3. Brother Khalil, good evening. You're live on air. Hello. Are you listening? Okay. All right. I guess Brother Khalil's busy. Let's go to line 1 and speak with George, calling in from Center City. George, good evening. You're live on air.
And the funny thing is, I listen to you every night, and this is one of your best nights you have ever had. Okay. You should do more of these and pose to the others. I listen to the others, but there's so much going on in Philadelphia that I think that a lot of hosts should focus on what's going on at home. Like they say, clean up your own backyard before you start cleaning up others. And you're very, very sharp. And you got Denise on there when it comes to politics, who's exceptionally sharp.
Yes.
She really knows how to lay it. Every now and then, Denise go above people's pay grade. She gets so, but she knows what she's saying, and you got to respect that.
Absolutely.
And you have a lot of callers that are advocate readers. They just read stuff, and then they come on the air and then try to repeat what they read and don't understand. The main thing about the crime bill, and I really want to explain this here, it wasn't Joe Biden who started that. It was those Negroes who started that. Because black people was the ones who was smoking crack, doing crack. They had the crack problem. White folks had a heroin and meth problem. So, I mean, something had to be done. It was major killing. People was doing ridiculous things. So when they came out with the crime bill, everybody was happy until, 3-4 years later? Now the same thing, like they say, history repeats itself. Philadelphia is going to be made out of the first example of what they're going to do about gun violence. The feds, that's what they're going to do. They're going to start turning all them gun cases over to the feds. Whereas though they're going to make these young guys plead out to 120 months, 240 months. They can't count, okay? But they will learn. That means you get 10, 20 years, for carrying a gun. And if you're a convicted felon, you automatically going to get 240 months. That's what, in Philadelphia, Swain and Krasner and Shapiro, they all working on that. You notice that they just keep letting this stuff go and go because they're going to make the public get so sick of this killing of kids and all that there that everybody's going to beg for them to do something. The same thing they did happened with crack. You just got to understand how the system works. Once you understand that, it's not a problem. It's only a problem if you don't know. If you know, it's not a problem, which we all understand. And Denise explains that to people all the time. Understand what you're up against, and it's not a problem. It's only a problem if you don't try to understand. Like a lot of people yak, but they never listen or never want to hear what one of the other people say. They always want to okay, I don't want to hear that. If you don't vote, you don't count. Everybody's telling you it's no choice between Biden and Trump. If you don't vote, you're voting for Trump. If you sit up there and badmouth Biden and Harris, listen, whatever problems you got with them, keep it to yourself. Because those white women in the suburbs is going to vote for Biden, contrary to your beliefs and thoughts. And if it's enough Negroes who keep pushing the issue, go vote for Trump. You might as well be one of those Negroes on TV who run around showing, blacks for Trump. Really? You can't even go back to your own neighborhood. So people should start paying attention and saying, right now, Biden feels as though he's indebted to African Americans. So therefore, if Biden get in there, you get everything you want and then some. But if you sit there and play that game of trying to divide and conquer or thinking you got so much that you can bargain, who you going to bargain with? Trump is the devil. You can't bargain with him. He told you already, I don't want you Negroes. I mean, and the Hispanics who vote for him is just as bad, though. That's right. I forgot. They're light-skinned Hispanics who think they're white, and they're dark-skinned Hispanics who they consider trash. That's right. I keep forgetting that. But all you got to do is just understand the basics of politics, how it works, what makes it work, and you get along. But if you sit up there and keep alluding to things that means nothing, like coming up because you read a book telling everybody about this, that, there, everybody know, but they'll never admit the crime bill came from African Americans. They was the one who was pressuring the government about do something. Just like all this gun violence, they pressing the issue, do something. Trust me, they're going to do something, and it's not going to benefit African Americans one bit. Because when these young men get out of jail, they'll be on a cane or in a wheelchair or a walker. Ladies, God bless, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, George from Center City. We appreciate your comment. On that, I got to take a break. Whew, that was a lot. Roll right up to the break. George, thank you for the call. Denise, hold the line. We're still talking about where do we go from here? What are the implications of a second term with Donald Trump? How does that actually affect us? Do you really think that all this time that we voted that there have been absolutely no benefits from our vote in all of this time? Your thoughts. 215-634-8065. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
The Murray Report.
Bringing you the latest in sports news and opinions.
Hosted by Chris Murray. Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Right here on onWURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on WordRadio.com and on the Word Radio app.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. Under my plan, 50% of emergency small business relief would be reserved for the smallest businesses to recover from the economic mess we're in and to rebuild the economic future our country deserves. We can't just build back to what it was before. We have to build back better. If we truly want to reward the work in this country, we have to ease the financial burdens of care that families are carrying. To start, every 3- and 4-year-old child gets access to free high-quality preschool, and low- and middle-income families won't spend more than 7% of their income on child care for children under the age of 5, advancing racial equity across the American economy, building wealth for families of color, building a future worthy of their courage and their ambition. Just imagine if we could truly unleash their full potential. I'm confident we can do this. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Listen live at WordRadio.com. The Word Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting WordRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. Exclusive articles and multimedia content and resources. Stay informed with the Word Radio newsletter.
Justice, equality, accountability. These are the values we need in our leaders to bring us together and be the America we know we can be. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are those leaders. Joe Biden has the experience to fix our broken economy. He's done it before and he'll do it again. And our own Kamala Harris is ready to lead. As senator, she championed education, health care, and criminal justice reform. And with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in charge, we know the White House will be accountable to our community. For 4 years, our country has been run by inexperience and corruption, but we have the chance to turn it around with values rooted in our common goals and the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Unite the Country. www.blackpac.com and www.unitethecountry.com, which are responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
You complete me like Aaron, what a boy I need thee. And when I'm in your arms, I feel free, falling. In the clouds, in love, I'm proud to say it loud. Like an accident, it happened. I don't know where it just happened, and I ain't mad at all because I'm falling head over heels. I'm falling in love with you. I'm falling, and I can't get up. Don't wanna get up because of love. Head over heels. I'm falling in love with you. I'm falling, and I can't get up. Because of love, baby, to let you get away is crazy. So
Now, if you know me at all, you know I'm a music girl first. By the way, it's Tonight on Word. I'm Tiffany Bacon, your guest host. That was music from Maya, Fallen, which uses a sample from Far Side's Runnin', which uses a sample from Stan Getz, and I cannot pronounce the name of the song, but it goes back to 1963. So if you're interested in samples, which I love a lot, you can check out the through line of that song. Thank you, Eric, for playing that. Nice groove. Welcome to Tonight on Word. We're talking politics this evening. Where do we go from here? What are the implications of a second term for Donald Trump should he win the upcoming election? Has our vote actually counted? Do you think we've gained anything? A caller made that comment earlier this evening. Do you think with all the times that we have voted that we've gained absolutely nothing? You can share your thoughts on that in the last half hour of our program. 215-634-8065. Denise Clay is my special guest this evening. So little time, so much to unpack, but I'll first ask you that question, Denise. Based on what a caller said earlier this evening, do you really think our votes have earned us nothing all this time?
I don't think they've earned us nothing because, let's face it, there are some things that wouldn't be a part of our country were it not for the fact that we voted, like the Civil Rights Act of 1965 and Voting Rights Act and different things. These are all things that, basically we got because we stood up for ourselves and we made a demand. And that is the most important thing here. Frederick Douglass said it best: power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, it never will. And you have to be in the room where you can make the demand. If you're not where you can make the demand, then, no matter what you want, you're not going to get it. And the main thing that people need to realize here, and I can't say this enough because I get the feeling that, based on stuff like what I said earlier about the decision in the federal court to say that all of the protections that Tom Wolf put in place to keep people from getting the coronavirus are unconstitutional, according to this Trump placed judge that was just the Trump appointed judge that was just put in place to decide the case. Everybody really needs to pay close attention to the judicial system. They need to pay attention to who gets to pick the judges, because there are a lot of things that can go bye-bye if Trump gets one more person on the Supreme Court. The reason why, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg coughs, everybody has a freaky meltdown is because they know that the minute she's off the court, if she is replaced by somebody during Trump's term, things like voting rights, which have already been cut down by the Supreme Court in a lot of ways with the decision they made a few years ago to get rid of pre-clearance for some aspects of voting laws in places where voter suppression was kind of the norm, like, say, Georgia. Just ask Stacey Abrams. That could go away. Your right to choose, if you're a woman and you don't necessarily want to have people telling when you can and can't have kids, that could go away. And believe me, while abortion is the main thing that these folks talk about, what they are really aiming for is birth control. But most of the people who are quote-unquote pro-life, and I say quote-unquote because they don't care about any aspect of the child apparently other than
after birth, right.
But those folks want to go back to a time where women did not have as much agency over their lives as they do now. And part of the way that you get rid of a lot of that agency is by not letting women decide when they want to have kids. So you have to watch the courts as much as you do anything else. And people were saying this back in 2000 when Al Gore and George W. Bush ran, and you had this pocket of people who voted for Ralph Nader, which basically gave Bush the election.
Mm-hmm.
And people were saying this back in 2016 when you had Mitch McConnell deny Merrick Garland a seat on the Supreme Court because he made up a rule about when you could bring, Supreme Court justices in, in election years and stuff. And Donald Trump was able to appoint not one but two Supreme Court justices, which has basically tilted the court so far to the right it can barely make left turns now.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to watch that, because a lot of the rights that people from marginalized communities have been able to maintain for themselves have come through court decisions saying, okay, you can't do that because what you're suggesting is unconstitutional.
Right.
And
so,
right now the Republicans are packing the court.
Yeah.
So people really need to pay attention to that.
And then that's, again, where the voting comes in. So when it's time to vote for these judges and whatever, whether it's local or national, that's where it counts. And so that's where you see the biggest difference. And maybe sometimes when people make the comment, they're not thinking about things like reproductive rights. Should the wrong person be in office, women would not have certain rights over their own body. Just some of the things we're discussing as we unpack the implications of a second term of Donald Trump here on Tonight on Word. Feel free to give us a call, 215-634-8065. Let's go to the phone, speak with Diane, calling in from South Philadelphia. Diane, you're live on the air. Good evening.
Thank you so much for taking my call, Tiffany. I'm enjoying your program. Every time you on, I enjoy it, and I enjoy your guest, Denise. She's the best.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, she is the best. She tells it like it is. I like that.
Yes.
But, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. When we vote, we have to hold people accountable. And that's all we do is vote, and we don't hold them accountable, those politicians accountable, they're going to keep on doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't understand, we want a perfect candidate. Nobody's a perfect candidate. You go back years, what Biden did, whatever. But Trump do something, he say something bad every day.
Mm-hmm.
And we're more concerned about what somebody said 50 years ago than today,
Mm-hmm.
And like Denise said, those judges, I believe Trump already appointed 198 judges. I could be wrong. But
no, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I am right. And none of them is African American. All of them is white.
Yeah, of
you
course.
know?
Of
and
course.
it's ridiculous because, when they put those judges in at 40 years old, they're going to stay there till they die.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to affect the future of our children. Like I was telling somebody today, we are leaving our children and our grandchildren in the bad place. So we have to teach our children the importance of voting and civics, because in our public school, they're not teaching our children nothing. We might as well let them stay home and we teach them ourselves, But we have to talk about voting among our young people, because that's important. And we don't, I don't know. The future is scary.
Yeah. I thank you so much for listening to us, Diane. And thank you so much for your phone call. We appreciate it. Denise, Diane said something real clear and real right. She said, every day he says something wrong. Every day there's a pause or a side eye at your computer screen or at your TV, wherever it is you consume your news. There's a side eye for the audacity of some of the things that are said and attempted or even completed that come from this administration in a way that makes you say, are you actually saying that because you believe that, or are you saying that for ratings? Because that doesn't even make sense for someone in your position to say. What the hell? Like there's a whole lot of what the hell that happens. What are the implications if we continue with this level of what the hell?
For one thing that Diane said that made a lot of sense to me, and that is that we're leaving a whole lot of stuff for our children and grandchildren to clean up. And what people need to understand is that even if you were to get Donald Trump out of office tomorrow, the stuff that he has done while he has been in office is going to have to be cleaned up somehow. I was saying to someone not too long ago, we were having this conversation that says whoever becomes the next president is probably going to be spending the first full year to year and a half of his or her administration going around the world and apologizing to people. Because there's a lot of international stuff that Donald Trump's presence has messed up, like our relationships with our NATO allies, our relationships with, even Canada and Mexico, the people who are closest to us. You have a whole lot of folks in Europe and around the world who don't trust America anymore. And it's not like they trusted us all that much to begin with, but they at least thought that we were a logical people, that we were people who had a lot of power but knew what we were supposed to do with it, and we were largely trusted with that power to an extent. But now people around the world are kind of looking at us and saying, okay, if they could elect this person, their president, their leader, their face to the world, if they could elect this person who was doing all of these things, as their leader, can we trust them anymore? And that's a legitimate question because, even when you talk to people, here in the country, like when you look at the coronavirus response, were it not for the governors of a whole lot of states who said, okay, we know we're not going to get any assistance from Washington, that Washington is basically under this impression that this is a hoax and that no one's dying from it, despite the fact that nearly 200,000 people have indeed died of it. We know we're on our own, so we have to conduct ourselves as if we're on our own. So there are a whole lot of relationships that whoever the next president is going to have to clean up. They're going to have to, make a whole lot of people who don't trust America anymore or don't trust the federal government anymore, even, states within the United States, they're going to have to rebuild a lot of those relationships.
Yeah. The coronavirus is just like the tip of that iceberg of what you're talking about when you think about our response to it and where we are now. Just in how many places don't even want us to come visit.
Most of the world has told the United States, you're not welcome here. Now, if anyone had told me, because I'm a military brat, and, because of that, my father pretty much got sent all over the world. If anyone would have told me in 2020 that he could possibly be stuck somewhere because he couldn't come home, because if he came home and then he came back to that place, he would have to quarantine for at least 2 weeks, and they might not even let him back in because, he's doing it on an American passport. I'd have looked at him like they were nuts.
Yeah, I need to pause you right there because I got to take my final break for the show. I got to go to commercial, but we're going to come back. We're going to wrap up our conversation about where do we go from here. Talking politics tonight on Word. We'll return after this.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
We have to let people know we're listening, that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
But they're not getting a chance now.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a real plan for police reform.
It means creating a national standard on use of force and conditioning federal funds for police departments on adoption of that standard. It's about giving the United States Department of Justice the subpoena power to investigate systemic police misconduct.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that. I really mean it. I believe with every fiber in my being, we have such an opportunity now to change people's lives for the better. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
As a business owner, hiring and developing people from the community that your company serves is one of the best ways to show commitment to that community. Let Word Radio help with Livelihood, our new initiative that connects Philadelphians with companies like yours. We'll feature your business, open employment opportunities, and resources to connect your company with talent and ensure that you reach your target demographic. To learn more about how Livelihood can help you build your team, visit wordworks.com. That's WURD works.com. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. Under my plan, 50% of emergency small business relief would be reserved for the smallest businesses to recover from the economic mess we're in and to rebuild the economic future our country deserves. We can't just build back to what it was before. We have to build back better. If we truly want to reward the work in this country, we have to ease the financial burdens of care that families are carrying. To start, every 3- and 4-year-old child gets access to free high-quality preschool, and low- and middle-income families won't spend more than 7% of their income on child care for children under the age of 5. Advancing racial equity across the American economy. Building wealth for families of color. Building a future worthy of their courage and their ambition. Just imagine if we could truly unleash their full potential. I'm confident we can do this. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now.
Tune in on YouTube at onWURD
or on Facebook at ForWord.
Word TV.
Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
It's no secret we're talking about politics tonight on Word, WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, and of course streaming live on URDradio.com. Denise Clay. I'm Tiffany Bacon. Denise Clay is joining me on the phone. So we're wrapping up this segment. Not a lot of time left, but ma'am, A second term could produce what for us?
Well, for one thing, it could produce a constitutional crisis because right now we have a president that doesn't think that the amendment that was made to the Constitution to only restrict a president to 2 terms should apply to him. He's already talking about negotiating for a 3rd term should he win a second. So we're definitely looking at more constitutional crises. I speak for a living. I just don't know how to do it well. We could also look at more of a trend toward authoritarianism because because President Trump has already said it in the event that he wins and people take to the streets to protest, he's going to call out the National Guard on people to keep them from, expressing themselves, I guess, for want of a better way to put it. And, you're going to see other things like that. You're going to see other things that are more geared toward cutting off free speech. For the people who do my job of journalism, I see a whole lot of lawyers who specialize in the First Amendment getting a whole lot of work in a second Trump term because there are things that the only thing that kept him from doing them when it came to libel laws and various other aspects of my job was the fact that there were enough people in Congress who told him, well, no, you can't do that. That's blatantly unconstitutional. But if he gets a second term, he's going to feel empowered enough to try these things again. And if he manages to if the Senate manages to stay in Republican hands, and Mitch McConnell is still the Senate Majority Leader, a lot of the stuff that he would like to try in terms of restricting press freedom could very well happen. And the black press in particular needs to keep a tight eye on this because anything that's a cold in the mainstream press is the coronavirus to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be cognizant of the fact that if we're not paying attention to what's going on in terms of press freedom, we're the people who are going to be the most impacted by it. The press that is, connected to marginalized communities, because marginalized communities are going to take a hit. If you're a person who is a dreamer,
mm-hmm.
Your life is going to completely and totally change in the second Trump administration.
Yeah.
Because while the courts are keeping his baser impulses at bay right now, they may not be able to do so in the second term. And what black people need to understand more than anything is that there are black dreamers. There are people
mm-hmm.
from Africa. There are people, from all over the African continent that came here but haven't become citizens yet. So there are black dreamers. Mm-hmm. So before you think, I don't need to worry about that because that only affects the Latino community. No, it does not. In fact, the first person that Trump lost a court decision over in terms of separating kids from their parents
mm-hmm.
was a black woman from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to understand that all that applies to us too.
Yeah. There is a lot at stake. And I can't remember what caller we had earlier this evening that talked about, the lack of fever about it. I know some of it is corona. The fact
mm-hmm.
that for the first time in our lives, we've had to be cooped up in the house for 7 months and our lives completely stop. And that's like an around the world thing. That has had an effect for some. But that is not an excuse to be lazy about this thing because there is a lot at stake. And yes, more than before, because like you just said, free speech is really on the chopping block here, largely. We've not had to deal with it in this way, at least in our lifetimes, not in this way. So to know that that's a possibility, free speech and all the other things that follow, all the other things that he's tried, not gotten away with, all the things that he's tried and gotten away with, a second term could just seal that deal. So whatever you feel, whatever you think, action needs to be taken. Like
and
yesterday.
Quick, we also need for people to know exactly how they can vote. Unlike every other election we've ever had in this country because of the pandemic, you have to plan how you're going to vote, because everybody has been talking about, all the problems with the post office, many of which have been, intentionally made.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not you're going to get your mail-in ballot in time, if that's how you want to vote. In fact, I know people who didn't get their mail-in ballot in time, in the primary.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how you're going to vote. And you have to make a plan to vote. And you have to make sure that you know when the last day to register to vote is, how many polling places are going to be in your neighborhood. You have to know all of that, because that's, this whole conversation becomes moot if people don't exercise their right to vote.
And right now, I have to go. Unfortunately, Denise, thank you so much, because you always have such good information. That's why I love to work with you and share space on the radio with you. So thank you. Please tell people your social media handles so that they can follow you on social media.
Okay. If you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, I'm Denise the Writer, and that's all one word. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, I'm just plain old garden variety Denise Clay. You can see my stuff in the Philadelphia Sun, Keystone News, and occasionally on the Australian Broadcasting Network.
You better go, Diva. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you for checking out the show. Much love to my producer, Eric. Have a peaceful, positive, and productive evening. I will actually be back here filling in tomorrow night at 7. Have a good one.
Make me some breakfast, toast, 2 scrambled eggs, grits, grab my keys, grab my purse, grab my jacket, off to work, beaming all the way down. Can't wait to get home. Nah, girl, I got something else to do. Frontin' on your girls, for real. Go ahead, really get your groove on, 'cause tonight my man's coming through.